So I usually start these things like I don't know what I'm doing, but clearly we know what we're doing after, I believe it's episode 18. So we've done quite a few of these right now, and I am super excited to have Rachel Daniels in the house right now at the Not an Accident podcast. Yes, the crowd is going wild. We're actually in front of a live studio audience.
You can barely hear
Yeah. No, we're super excited to have you, and I got to know you through MI40 and working out, and then I want to share, I'm just going to get you hyped up from the beginning. I was at dinner with a friend on Saturday night who's done a couple shows, and she's in the industry, and I asked her if she knew you, and she was like, she's fantastic at posing.
Oh.
So yeah, you got some fans out there, so we're going to get right into it. Tell me about yourself. Tell me how you got involved in fitness.
All right, so I'm a two-time women's physique Olympian and compete in the IFBB Pro League. I got into fitness from a very young age. I originally started as a gymnast. From the time I was like 2 years old, my parents threw me in gymnastics. And I got really high level in gymnastics to the Junior Olympics there, where I was working my way towards their Olympics. And then I had a really serious back injury. Well, it was an injury. I had scoliosis, which is an abnormal curvature of the spine. And mine was so bad that I eventually, around the age of 14, needed surgery. And by then I was already training in the gym without, not bodybuilding or weightlifting, but like training for gymnastics 3.5 hours a day, 6 days a week.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
As a kid, my whole life was just school, gymnastics. Any other sports kind of fell off because my training for gymnastics started to take over as like I got really serious and ranked high nationally for gym. And so for me at like 14, when I had to get this massive back surgery and I had a entire spinal fusion except for my cervical and my last two lumbar. I have two titanium rods, 12-inch rods, 24 screws and 6 hooks in my back. So that completely cut out my gymnastics career. Obviously, I can't do backflips and stuff without a bending spine, so
makes it a little more difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
So I moved on to more dance and theater, and because that was like the closest thing I could find, and gymnastics kind of combines fitness and dance as well. And then I obviously fell in love with dance from a very young age, and then as I got older, went to college. So I was always really fit. But as I got older, I went to college. I started partying a lot. I kind of put the arts down. I put the sports down.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I got lost. I did it. I was like, I have to get a corporate job, and like I can't do this nonsense like fitness stuff anymore. And I mentally really dropped down off a cliff because of it. And when I got out of college, I got in a really bad place, and I say it's one of my rock bottoms because I don't believe you just have one rock bottom in your life. Sometimes you have a rock bottom and then you find out like there's a lower one. Yeah. And so I hit a rock bottom. I was in a really bad situation, really bad abusive relationship. And I basically got to the point where I had to like fight for my life to get out of this, quite literally. And I hit a rock bottom moment where I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm honestly like, I'm a piece of shit right now. I'm like in this terrible situation dealing with like abhorrent things I don't deserve. Like my life's at risk. I'm partying. I don't know who I am. I don't have any values anymore. I'm letting people treat me however I want. I miss food for 3 days. Like I wake up in random places. Like I was just blowing around in the wind, letting the world do whatever it wants with me basically. And, so I basically like left the courthouse dealing with this and like finalizing this bad situation. And that was around 2018. And I think it was literally like the next day I just went to the gym with a friend, and it was like, like an LA Fitness or something. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like this week, I'm just gonna try to like eat some eggs for breakfast, maybe some like chicken and rice for dinner. I didn't know anything about meal prepping. I was like, I'm gonna drink some water instead of like alcohol. And I'm going to like do my laundry. And I remember those were like my 3 goals that week. And I never left the gym. Like I just kept going every day. And then I kept building more goals. And eventually somebody was like, you should do a bikini show. And I hopped on a meal plan and I did a show in like 3 weeks. And I won.
Wow.
Yeah, I won, and that was with a different league called PCA, and I kind of moved up to their Olympia pretty fast, where I got 4th. And then I was like, I'm done with bikini. Like, I remember I saw Dana Bailey, and she was like, I was like, wow, that is the ideal woman. Like, I loved that she was beautiful and she had muscle like I hadn't seen in her legs. And I was like, I want to look like that. So transitioned over to women's physique, and I wanted to be at the Olympia for that. So the only way through that door was through competing in the NPC and then the IFBB. And then I think it was 2020, I did my first women's physique show. I did Tampa Pro. Was it Tampa Pro? No, it was Hurricane Base, something like that. I qualified for nationals, and then I did Junior USA's the end of August of 2020. I got my pro card and won the overall. New York Pro that year was in Tampa because of COVID, which was cool.
Perfect for you, yeah.
But, like, I remember after all my pro cards, J.M. Mannion, the Mannion family who runs the IFBB, he was like, you need to jump in New York Pro. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, that's like one of the most prestigious pro shows. I just got my pro card. He's like, what do you have to lose? And I was like, okay. So I just like drove down the road, did New York Pro the next weekend, and I won, which was literally,
it's got to be wild.
Changed my, like, I was just like, didn't even believe that happened. And then I did my first Olympia 4 months later, and I got 7th in the world. So wow. It was just like a whirlwind, and I had to take the entire year off after because I was like, my heart was just pounding on my chest. I didn't know anything about the bodybuilding world. I didn't grow up on like reading about like Ronnie Coleman or anybody like that. But I got thrust into it, and I picked up the slack, and I learned along the way. I made a lot of mistakes, and now I'll be going for my hopefully 3rd Olympia after this show in a couple weeks.
That's amazing. I will say that, so I went through and I worked out a lot in college and got healthy. Like my senior year, I started getting really healthy, and then going through the next couple of years, started getting really, really busy with work. Fitness fell off. And to your point, fitness provides, and working out and being healthy provides so much structure. Yeah. You feel better, you look better. I mean, for so many people, I think they forget that it's kind of like an anchor to their life. And some people get more serious like you do and make it their career, which is incredible. But I really want to encourage the audience that, you know, if you're going through something, or you're maybe not liking how you're looking, or, you know, how you are mentally, try hitting the gym a couple of times a week. And I can tell you, it's a game changer. Yeah, man. It's like what I said, like, when I first started, I wasn't like, I'm going to the Olympia, I'm going to do this and this. I was like, hey, my baby goal is like, I'm doing my laundry, I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm going to eat like a whole food for breakfast. Like, I'm going to show up. Like, and that's the thing. And I tell my clients the same thing. It's like, don't make these huge, like, monumental tasks. It's okay to have these big goals, but like, let's backtrack them. Let's like retroactively go back and find like the little ones that lead up to that. And like, if you don't have a purpose, I mean, at least for me, if I'm walking around without a purpose, and I know a lot of other people are like this, like whether it's winning the Olympia or this or that, if you can't make values for yourself and then base your purpose and the way you step every day off those values, like you're going to walk around lost. You're going to walk around not liking how you are. And that's why a lot of us like the gym and bodybuilding, because it gives us a sense of purpose. It gives us a sense of accomplishment, delayed gratification, you know, patience, honest work. Like you can't lie to a pair of dumbbells. Like, no. So, and these are all qualities that transfer over into everyday life. So yeah, I totally agree. Well, we would be remiss if we didn't shout out to the homie Adam Brammer, the Barbarian Scholar. So, love that kid. One of the things, and every coaching style is different. One of the things with him that I appreciated is it wasn't, to your point, it wasn't like, okay, you're going to lose this much weight and you're going to do this and this. I remember to this day, my first training session is like, okay, pick that up and put it down. Like, it wasn't like this whole like brainstorming session of like, what is this? And then I think a couple sessions in, he's like, so what physique do you like? And I was like, I was, a big fan of like Steve Cook. Like that was I thought he was the coolest when I was in college. I was a big Christian Guzman. I still am because of the business side and stuff. And I was like, those dudes are cool. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's like realistic. Like if I told him like Ronnie Coleman or something like that, it would probably, I think it's baby goals. And I think that's anything in life. And that can kind of be applied across the board. With that being said, when did you feel like you were qualified or in a position where you can start coaching or should start coaching?
As far as, are you talking about as far as training or posing coaching or like nutrition or just all?
I guess wherever you want to start. Like, when did you? Okay, let me rephrase. When we're not in a court of law. Sorry, let me restructure that question. When did you feel like you were competent or had enough experience to start giving people advice in some capacity?
One thing about me is I take very seriously. I think a good leader admits when they don't know something. I also think that I also am an athlete myself. So I have the experience with coaches and I know how much you need to trust a coach and I know how much you depend on them and you need to be able to just at a certain point turn your mind off and do what they say blindly. So that task as a coach is not one that should ever be taken lightly. And unfortunately, we have like a lot of young influencers and stuff who do like one bodybuilding show and they're like, I can give you diet plans and I can tell you what PEDs.
And I'm glad you went there. I was gonna kind of go down that road. Yeah. So go ahead, please.
And so for me, I really wanted to do it the right way. I was lucky enough on the training side to be exposed to people like Adam, Joe Bennett, Ben Pekulski, like these just amazing biomechanic geniuses. So I made sure that I took my time to learn before. I trained with each and every one of them. I've never been afraid to ask questions. I picked their brains literally completely apart. I took notes. So I indulged myself in these kind of like these informal mentorship programs. Also I had my coach at the time was very brilliant and helped mentor me quite a bit. I would ask friends or people when I first started if I could use them as my test dummies. Like, my cousin wants to lose 30 pounds. I'm like, let me write you a meal plan. Let me start doing this. And I had other coaches and bigger people in the industry where I would send them my work and what I was doing, and we would have weekly check-in meetings and things like that. And I think that's the best way to learn. I obviously read a lot of books and did this and that, but it wasn't to the point where I was consistently nailing it with these people and getting into higher level stuff like hormones and blood work and stuff and nailing that stuff too, that I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And like, even, I have like some pros, and like, even sometimes now as a coach, I'm like constantly questioning myself, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough for this? But, I think that's also part of being a good coach, is always wanting more. Posing, I felt a lot more ready to go.
Probably because of your history.
Yeah, but
your experience.
Once I started diving into like the mandatory poses and all the intricacies, my mentor, he's like a father to me. Kenny Wallach is probably the most intelligent and brilliant posing coach in the league, and he's been around for years. And he picked me up as his little prodigy, like right when he saw me turn pro, and has just given me so much knowledge that I never could imagine. As far as like rhythm and musicality and all of that stuff, I've always had that from very young age, being in theater, but he really led me on a good path to be able to properly coach people. And then once he kind of like let me off the leash and do my own thing with my own clients, I've really developed skills on my own, just seeing thousands and thousands of bodies and being challenged with new body parts, new limitations, new poses, new things that people can't do, can do. And I think that's the same with the coaching. So I waited quite a bit but that's how I am kind of with everything. Like I like to dive right into things, but I also am a perfectionist, and I take other people's time very seriously, especially if I'm putting my name on it. So, and if I do have an athlete that comes to me that's like, hey, I have this crazy autoimmune disease that 1% of the world has, and I'm not experienced with it, I'm not too proud to be like, hey, that's a little bit above me. But I have this great other guy that I'm going to send you over to. Everything
that you're going through would, if I had to, talk about a good coach, probably signifies a coach constantly learning, trying to grow, tailoring it to that individualized client. And I love that you went down that route and kind of talked about it. You see all these things on Instagram, and I try, part of the reason I have the podcast is to educate people and help people as well. Do some research before you hire a coach. And it's like, if you're trying to lose a quick 10 pounds or something like that, there you could probably hit up a handful of people. But if you're really trying to get healthy and do things right, do some research, because if you don't, you're not going to stick with it. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing, is that if you don't find that right fit, you're just back where you started anyway.
I always tell people it's easy to go look at a coach who has taken somebody with amazing genetics and made them look more amazing. You should really look for, or even ask them, look for someone who has like really bad genetics that's an athlete of theirs, or who had really bad hormones, or like I said, autoimmune diseases, or like they had all these like comorbidities and problems, and then that coach turned them into like a beautiful flower. Like that's very telling of the true talent of a coach. So that's very important. And yeah, also for people, I would just say like finding, it's not just, how book smart they are. It's almost like a marriage or something, like, or a relationship. Like they have to, like, cool, they can have a great job or great car or whatever, but if they're not the right mental fit for you, like you have to be able to psychologically connect with your athletes and tap into them. People have different types of personalities, and that coach might be amazing on paper. They might know all the ways, but they might not click with you in your personality style and not be able to bring out the best in you. So looking at how you guys vibe on communication and like your energy together as partners, because you are teammates, that's really important.
We're gonna talk about the commoners like me, okay? Why do people not take care of themselves?
I call them lifestyle clients.
Okay, perfect.
Commoners.
Yeah, why the commoners? Yeah, us common folk
Like,
just kind of get in the way at the gym.
No,
I'm kidding. But why go back to crunch, loser? No, I'm kidding. Why do people not take care of themselves? And I'm not calling anybody out, but why do they kind of, I guess, maybe not look their best?
Just like in general, like why don't they chase their dreams?
Yeah, like why? Not even in the fitness space. Like why do people allow those extra? We'll call them not the love weight. I'm talking about the extra weight. Why does that happen?
Instant dopamine. We live in a culture where the principle and the value of delayed gratification is a complete lost art nowadays.
Wow. Okay. That's a great, yeah. No.
Yeah, like you want a,
if I want ice cream, I want ice cream. Yeah.
And guess what? You don't even have to get up off your ass and get it. You can DoorDash that shit right to you. And that guy will probably walk it in your house and put it in your hand.
Yeah.
You need something? Oh, you just need to swipe right on Amazon. Like you don't have to get up and do anything. You want to find someone to date? Go swipe right on Tinder. You'll have a boyfriend in 2 seconds. So we live in this world of excess. There's access to everything, anything you want if you have the money for it. There's no work in getting it. And Instagram, for example, we have just instant gratification all the time. And it's the same way, unfortunately, with people. Fitness requires delayed gratification. Whether you are trying to be an Olympic bodybuilder or not, you don't get to do a diet for one day and wake up the next morning and look like a Ken doll. You don't get to, there's a long period of hustling and grinding. And I like to call it going through your ugly duckling phase, where you're like not quite lean, but you're not quite huge and muscly. And you're doing all this hard work and not really seeing anything for maybe like 3 or 4 months, before you start to get some visual validation on that what you're doing is working.
I went through it.
Yeah. So there's like that time period of faith, and unfortunately it's just a lost art nowadays. It's you having that access in your face, being able to be like eating our emotions is a huge thing in our culture. It's like, oh, I had a bad day, I'm going to go make myself feel better by giving myself a hamburger. But if you think about it, like if you really wanted to create the most optimal human and you wanted to teach them something like patience as a virtue, like you probably wouldn't give them everything immediately, right? If you wanted to teach them discipline, you probably wouldn't give them a very easy life. So people want these qualities and these traits, but they don't want to go through the shitty part to get there, the delayed gratification of getting those virtues. So people in our society, they tap out quick, they go get a little hamburger, feel good moment, and then unfortunately they're still kind of walking around empty inside and don't know why. I've talked about it in multiple videos. I have a very stressful job. I'm very thankful, but there's a lot of stress that goes along with it. And I would have, a long day and I'm like, man, I'm going to eat some cake.
And then I would have a good day, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna go celebrate, eat some cake.
Like, don't get
it is. It is. No, we should live life.
Yes.
But I think the thing that I've discovered even more so on my end, and I think people fall into as well, is they go through the motions without result. Meaning, and I would love your opinion on this, meaning, oh, I went to the gym at 6 o'clock today. Yeah, you still look the same you did them. And there's nothing wrong with that. At least, you're taking that step. But you look the same you did 3 months ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like practice without purpose, where you're just going through the motions, and it's like, oh, I ate really good this week. And then you just go blow it on the weekends. And it's like, you just undid all that hard work. Yeah. So there's consistency, obviously having a little bit of fun, but making sure that you're raising the bar consistently as well. And I think that's what people miss as far as the notion of consistency. It's like consistency looks like this, not like this.
It's not this.
Yeah.
But it is. It's
a gradual incline.
Right.
Yeah, not a plateau.
You have to have intention in what you're doing. Like there's even like, oh God, that's a good time, because like even yesterday I was posing and I was so tired, and I was like, I hadn't had carbs for a few days, and it was like 4 a.m, and I was just kind of like doing my turns through the motions, and I was like, you only have to do it 3 times and then we're done. And then I was like, but like, are we paying attention right now? Are we like squeezing your glutes? Are we holding things at the right angles? Is this pose going to look better than it did the day yesterday? Or are you just running through it so that you can get it done in 3 times, so you can be like, I did it, regardless of how much effort I put into it when I was actually doing it. And like, that's what you said. There's kind of just a waste of time. So yeah, being intentional about what you're doing is super important.
I did, on third, I was on the last exercise, did 4 sets or whatever. I was on the 3rd set, and I kind of, went through the motions, and I'm like, 4th set, I'm like, I'm putting it out there. Like cause I was like, and you got to, keep challenging yourself, even if it's like you kind of insinuated, even if it's on those micro levels,
right?
You got to keep going through the motions to, keep getting better. Tell me about the easiest way to start getting healthy. And you can take that in any way that you would like, I guess.
Oh, it's so hard. I could go down so many different roads on that. The easiest way to getting healthy, definitely, I mean, I think people always need to start with like what their goals are. Like, what's your why? Like, okay, you want to get healthy? Let's just like have this conversation with yourself. Why? Is it because you want to piss off your ex-girlfriend? Is it because you want to change your life and be a better father for your kids and live longer? Is it because you want to look great in the mirror naked? None of those reasons are wrong, but they're going to give different amounts of fuel, and different, and your goals getting there are going to look differently. I think because your why becomes very important, whatever energy is attached to that is going to take you a long way or a short way. As far as health wise, I think there's just basic things people can do off rip without like even hiring a coach and going really all in. Like, cut out like all the, like, even if you just change normal soda to diet soda, I promise you, like, someone who's drinking a ton of soda is going to lose like 10 pounds pretty quickly. Cut out the processed sugars, like things like that. Very, very simple. Go get your blood work done. Mental health is a big thing holding people back. And a lot of people, and I think about this all the time, a lot of people, go right to a psychiatrist and they get like put on Xanax. And I don't know why these psychiatrists aren't running like a full hormonal panel on some of these people and looking at their blood work, because your gut brain axis is so connected and dependent on these things.
Or when's the last time you walked around your block?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Take a walk outside. I mean, sunlight.
Yeah, get some vitamin D. Get some,
D, to find a time at bed that you turn your phone off an hour before you're closing your eyes.
I started doing that. Yeah. Game changer. I got that from Hormozy. I started setting an alarm to go to bed and turn off my phone. Yeah.
And also, I guess, take a look at your environment. I think environment is probably one of the biggest factors in people's success. It's extremely hard to change your life and lifestyle if you're like hanging around people and places that are living with the old version of you. So it's not like you have to be like, I'm better than you guys now, I'm a bodybuilder, like, get rid of everyone you know. But like, that's what I did, kind of. Like, and it happened kind of not intentionally, but I'm a big believer in you hang out with, and your environment is the same way. So maybe if you're going out with like 6 dudes who get blackout drunk every Saturday night and you're trying to be in the fitness game or just be a little healthier, maybe be like, hey guys, I'm not going to go out with you tonight. I'm going to go to bed, or things like that. So definitely paying attention to those. Also, I guess the last thing I would say is it's okay to have big goals, but don't overwhelm yourself, because it's like the New Year sign up at the gym thing, like the first of the year.
I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year. Yeah, this is my year.
They come to me, they're like, I'm buying a year's worth of coaching with you. I'm getting a gym membership today. I'm going to the grocery store. Like, I'm throwing all this out. And I'm like, okay, I love this energy. Love it. But like, also 99% of those people aren't going to make, like, they kind of taper off after a month, because it's not because they can't do it. It's just because if you set your expectations so high of yourself, and the same thing goes for setting your expectations too low. Either end of the extreme, you're going to fail. It's going to become too overwhelming. So there's there's so much positive reinforcement in setting a couple goals that are attainable at first. Because when you attain that goal, that's your little hit of dopamine. That's your little, okay, I did that. Like, I feel good about that. That gives me a little bit of confidence. Now I can take on a little bit bigger goal. Okay, I did that. And you start building this momentum. And then before you know it, you're reaching big, big goals.
We've all had difficult clients. When do you start recognizing that there's difficulties, and how do you deal with that?
I consider myself pretty good at engaging with people, a people person. I can usually tell pretty quickly. I always get on a phone call with my initial clients and get a vibe for how they talk about their old coaches. If they start, coming on there talking a lot of crap about the person they used to be with, it's kind of a red flag. Seeing how respectful they are, seeing what type, are they type A personalities? Like, none of these are necessarily like game changer, cut them off things, but one of my degrees in school is in psychology, so I really believe that a huge part of coaching is your ability to kind of read your athlete's psychological profile. If I treat all my athletes the same, like say I have someone who's, a guy who's like really stubborn, really cocky, like really proud, like if I talk to him a certain way, I probably can't elicit the same result out of him that I could with somebody else. And it's the same thing like within the gym. Like, I know you've seen Adam train with me, like he'll scream in my face and like, get up, and like he's shouting and screaming. Can't do that with everybody. Like if I did that he did that with another client, she's probably going to start crying and like never want to work out again. So if I have difficult clients, I usually try to work around their personality types, not in like a manipulative way, but if it does get to the point where I'm seeing that you're changing things on your own, especially bigger things like PEDs or like doing things behind my back, and there's trust constantly being broken, I'm kind of like a one-time warning type gal. Like, hey, I set boundaries.
Yeah, you said rip. Two-way street. Yeah, this is a team. Yeah,
I set boundaries off rip. Like, I come in when you're my athlete in any regard, like, hey, this is what I expect from you. This is what you can expect from me. You can tell me what you expect from you, and I can tell you if I can do that for you or not. And you're welcome to call me out on my shit if I'm not doing it. But like, and then that's that. So if you do that, it might give you one warning, and then it's just, wish you the best. But I don't need like
issues. Yeah. I get it. And I guess you could talk about with your own clients, yourself, or just a general, we'll call them Gen Pop instead of commoners now, lifestyle clients. Lifestyle folks. I love that. I'm going to say so. And next time I see Adam, so I'm like, so what am I falling in? Am I still like, am I an athlete now? Or am I more still a lifestyle
athlete?
Yeah. There you go. A lifestyle athlete. Okay. How do you handle plateaus and setbacks, or advise somebody to handle them?
I guess it would depend on the plateau or the setback. Like, if we're talking about like a gym plateau, like if you're being like, say your numbers are, you've been trending up and now you're just hitting these plateaus. And I have that a lot. People come to me like, I think I'm plateauing. Like, and usually they're not. Usually they just haven't, if we're talking like in a training sense, a lot of times they just haven't changed enough variables yet. So like, for example, like with training, like say I have a guy who's like,
I can't bench anymore.
Yeah, I can't bench anymore. Like I'm at my max. Like there's nothing else I can do. Like, what are we doing about this? And it's like, well, we can do other things first. Like, let's take a look at your food. Let's see where that's at. We can manipulate your food. And if we just even take out the food, like, and talk strictly about the training, like, we can adjust other things. We can adjust your reps. We can adjust your tempo. Like, how fast are you going down on these? What's your tempo timing? We can adjust your rest times. We can adjust your split. We can adjust the number of sets you're doing. So there's usually 1,000 variables we can do with like that type of plateauing. As far as setbacks, everybody's got setbacks. I usually try to preach that the obstacle is usually the way, to just going straight through head on. I make sure hopefully by the time that we get to a place of a setback, that my clients and I have a really solid, trusting relationship, and they know that they can come to me literally about anything, like obviously being respectful of boundaries, but my athletes know that they could call me and cry their eyes out if they needed to, about something. So knowing that they have that, knowing that I can get them into a space if they need mental health help, if we need to reach out in other areas like that, that I'm always going to be a resource, like kind of like Mama Bear, like I'm going to get you where you need. I can't do the work for you, and I'm not going to be your mom about it, but I'll get you in a spot where we'll get through it together. So it is dependent on the setback. Injuries obviously are mentally the hardest for most people. I went through my share of injuries. Hormones for the girls especially are really tough because that plays a lot on mental health and things like that as well. But as long as you usually have somebody, a lot of times people just need to know that they're not dealing with a setback alone. That can help tremendously. Have somebody not give up on them, and just be by their side until we get through it with a plan.
I ask this every podcast, and it's a different answer for everybody. When did you realize that you were successful? I know. I
still don't know if I'm successful sometimes in my head. When did I know I was successful? Probably when I started like walking in the gym, and this is going to sound weird, but like I could see that guys were talking to me and looking at me from a place of respect instead of a place of like, that's a really hot girl. Not that they didn't think I was attractive, but like, does that make sense? Like,
yeah, they looked at you as like an athlete, like an equal.
Yeah, I felt a certain energy and level of respect from the other members in the gym that I was like, wow, I deserve to be here, and I'm achieving like the body that I've wanted. And also kind of when I got to the point I could kind of make my own decisions about what clients I have. Like I wasn't so hungry for money or anything that I had to like take on people that were disrespectful to me or things like that. And I also I remember I had a list of like a couple of years ago when I started of like, I wrote down like all the things that I would want to do to be successful. And I kind of forgot about it, but I looked back on it in like a year ago, and like everything was checked off. And I mean, obviously
that's amazing. That's awesome.
But obviously like goals, I have more goals now.
Yeah, they change. They increase. Yeah, of course.
Because there's always a time where you're like, God, if I could just like get on stage, or if I could just I remember when I was just like, God, if I could just get a pro card, like it doesn't matter what else would happen. Like that, I would feel like so like complete in life. And then it's like, well, I've done that now. Like, and then it's like, oh, well, if you could just get to the Olympia. So they're always changing, but I consider myself successful because I just haven't stopped. Like, and I don't look at failures as failures. I look at them as attempts. If you have a big major goal that you're leading towards, the only way you're going to really fail is if you just stop. So I have a lot of attempts.
We all do.
Back on my ass on. But I think that's the definition of success. You just keep fucking trekking. You might 2 steps back, 1 step forward. Eventually we're getting up here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is some of the most important advice you've gotten in relation to fitness?
Oh, God, that's hard.
Or if you'd like to, and then we can even amend that to say, what's some of the most important advice that you've given?
I don't know if this is just about fitness, but like some of the biggest advice that stuck with me was from like Kai Green. And this was like more about like posing, but I've used it a lot of different facets of my life, like business and other things. Like he was like, basically like you can never be afraid to take risks. Like if you can't be successful without potentially being embarrassed. right? So like closed mouths don't get fed, and a lot of people don't take risks, whether they're creative in dancing or posing. If like I didn't take certain risks in my posing and do stuff that people haven't done before, with the potential of being like completely laughed at and just looking ridiculous, nothing great would have come from it. And that's the same with, you know, your bodybuilding career. It's the same with going for that extra set, like those extra couple reps of beyond failure into the unknown. Like it all kind of applies. And there's this quote I really like, and it says, if you could just muster up like 20 seconds of ridiculous courage, something amazing can happen sometimes.
That's a great quote.
Yeah, I really like that. And it's true. Like sometimes you just gotta be like, fuck it, send it.
Yeah. Full send. What kind of mark do you want to leave on the fitness community? I'm hitting you with the hard ones.
Give me these.
I did. Well, that's so we get
here and looked all like.
So we get these honest reactions. Well, now.
What kind of mark do I want to leave on the fitness industry? I want people to be like, the game's never going to be the same after her. Like, obviously I think everyone wants to be like a legend, but obviously I want to be known for bringing passion and artistry back into bodybuilding. For the posing aspect, I want to bring back the storytelling that the golden era guys used to have and show that women can do it too, and show that our physiques, bring back the art of the physique artist. They used to have like 5 to 7 minute posing routines back then. And when I get on stage in front of an audience, I always say I like to make dead people feel alive again. And I think that's what bodybuilding is about. It's bringing the passion of the pain in the gym and the prep and the life struggles and everything, and getting up on that stage and like somehow telling that to people without using any words. So I would like people to remember the feelings that I gave them, I guess, more than anything, whether it helped them in some capacity that I'll never know about or not. I think helping people and relating to people is the highest form of self-service. And I also think as a pro, what I really want to do, and like one of the reasons I call myself the real Lois Lane, and I try to keep my stuff really real and raw about like everything that happens to me, whether it's good or bad or ugly, and not just post like the cool, fun stuff on Instagram about how perfect you are, is because like that doesn't fucking help anybody. You know, if you want to go on the internet and like just look perfect, that's fine. It's going to make you look good. If you want to help people, I really believe that the way you're going to do that is showing someone that you're humanized, showing someone that you go through the same bullshit and bad days and injuries and mental health stuff that they do, and you can still make it to an incredible level, because that's actually relatable, because they can see themselves in you then. They're like, wow, that girl, that's happened to me before. Like, wow, that's really shitty. That happened to her and she still did all that. Now that makes me feel like I can do it too. You know, not just looking at someone who's completely perfect and like has had nothing happen in their lives. So, I'd like to be probably like the leader of the underdogs and let the lost boys and girls know that there's a way.
There you go.
To Neverland. So, yeah.
Well, you're certainly a real one. And as we're wrapping up, the last thing I'll ask is where you can sit back on this one. Where can people find you? Where can they find you on the old interwebs?
MI40, no. On the internet.
At MI40, yeah, that's probably a good call.
You can find me posing on the turf. So my website is therealloislane.com. It's with one L, THEREA.
And it'll be on make sure you guys check out the description. It'll be in there as well.
Yeah, so I offer posing, coaching. I have clothing on there. It's all on there. If you need to email me and get in touch for like a consult or something, you can find my email on there too, realloislane@gmail.com. And I do take lifestyle athletes as well. I don't just take, Olympians or IFBB pros. I love working with.
She'll help out you commoners. Yeah.
Lifestyle athletes are welcome. My company is called Anti-Heroes Inc. So you can follow us on Instagram as well. I'll give you guys the tag for that. And then my Instagram is _IFBB Pro. And
perfect.
If you want to see me on stage in 5 weeks, you can get the live stream for Pittsburgh Pro or go on out there if you're in the area.
Perfect. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on. That was absolutely amazing. As always, guys, my producers will yell at me if I don't tell you to like and subscribe. And of course, as we're signing off, we will say that it is not an accident that Rachel has had the success that she has had. Thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely. We're signing off. We'll see you guys soon.